something that's on another planet.
According to scientists, the Barringer crater was formed roughly 50,000 years ago when a massive asteroid measuring 150 feet in diameter and weighing an incredible 300,000 tons slammed into the Earth's surface. The resulting explosion was 150 times more powerful than the atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. However, it is only one of many examples of how asteroid impacts have caused massive devastation on Earth and also shaped the world that we live in today.
Asteroids hitting the planet Earth affect everything. They've changed the climate, they've created tremendous disasters on the planet. The most famous taking place 66 million years ago, when an object about 6 miles across plowed into the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, wiping out the dinosaurs.
Created a whole new landscape on Earth, and it allowed perhaps for creatures like ourselves to exist. So definitely rocks colliding with Earth had a huge impact on the evolution of life on Earth.
While a major life-altering asteroid impact isn't known to have occurred on Earth for thousands of years, smaller fragments, known as meteors, penetrate the Earth's atmosphere on a regular basis.
Statistically, we get hit by meteors all the time. You can go out any night and you can see shooting stars or falling stars, which are objects outside of the Earth entering the atmosphere and burning up. Some of them actually make it to the ground. We sometimes forget that the world we see around us originally came from outer space. When you look at the history of the Earth 4.6 billion years ago, back then there was basically rubble. Rubble, gas, particles circulating around the sun, and gravity began to coalesce much of this material, which eventually became the planet Earth. The Earth was molten for many billion years. The elements like the platinum-based materials and uranium tend to be heavy. Much of the heavy metals drifted toward the center of the Earth when the Earth was formed.
But as the Earth's surface cooled and solidified, an extended period known as the Late Heavy Bombardment ensued, wherein billions of comets, asteroids, and meteors made impact, seeding our young planet with numerous resources, including water and precious metals.
During that bombardment phase, smaller impacts would hit the crust and be trapped. So many of the precious metals that we really value on the Earth actually came from the asteroids.
Were it not for the metals that arrived on Earth from space during its formation, the development of a technologically advanced human civilization would not have been possible.
These asteroids and meteors, they also contain not just ordinary chemicals like carbon and iron, but also materials that are strong, conduct electricity, things like platinum. Platinum that is used in the electronics industry.
Meteorites are providing materials like iridium, quasi-nanocrystals that are ultimately used in our technology, and also gold. The meteorites bring the surface gold.
A lot of, particularly the rare metals that are critical in things like cell phone technologies and other electronic devices, are often as likely to be here only because of meteor impacts and that material coming from elsewhere in space, rather than having formed naturally in just the Earth's crust as part of its evolution.
Although the evidence that cosmic impacts have been critical to sustaining life on Earth is profound, incredible, scientists have recently discovered new evidence that meteors may have seeded the Earth with DNA. Sapporo, Japan, April 27th, 2022. Researchers at Hokkaido University make an extraordinary announcement. After analyzing 3 meteorites that were formed 4.6 years ago, at the very dawn of the solar system. They discovered that each object contains all four components of DNA, the central building block of life.
Could some of the origins of life come from space? One idea you could imagine is an asteroid broke off from a planet that had the right chemicals for life. It traveled through space, entered the Earth's atmosphere as a meteorite, and that those chemicals interact with the chemistry of the Earth, and perhaps that was the starting point for life as we know it here.
For decades, mainstream scientists have studied the hypothesis that life on Earth may have evolved from a so-called primordial soup, meaning that organic compounds formed into living cells in the planet's primitive oceans.
It's still a question how life originated on Earth. And oftentimes you're told that this all happened due to a primordial soup, but there need to be certain ingredients. And astronomers are now saying that these secret ingredients were brought here through meteor impacts.
For ancient astronaut theorists, the possibility that meteors carried the building blocks for human life on Earth raises an intriguing question. Could it be that these ancient meteor impacts did not happen by chance, but by design?
Bioastronomers have coined a concept called panspermia. Panspermia essentially means seeding. Pan means everything, spermia is seeding, so the seeding of everything. Now, often meteor impacts are considered to be random. But if you say directed panspermia, that means that extraterrestrial intelligences deliberately sent the building blocks of life somewhere that they knew was going to be habitable. Is it possible that meteors were sent to Earth deliberately because the extraterrestrials knew that Earth can host life?
Could it be that certain meteor strikes in Earth's history did not happen by chance, but were, in fact, directed here by an extraterrestrial intelligence? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining ancient cultures that believe meteorites possess an otherworldly connection.
Muslims believe that this stone was sent down by God to Earth.
They believe that through meteorites they can talk with the gods.
Mecca, Saudi Arabia. At the center of Islam's holiest city stands the Grand Mosque, the largest house of Islamic worship on Earth. It is also the final destination of the Hajj pilgrimage, which every Muslim is required to complete once in their life if they are physically able. In the mosque's central courtyard stands an ancient structure called the Kaaba, or cube, and embedded in one corner of the Kaaba is the most sacred object in Islam, the Black Stone, a mysterious rock that is believed to have come from the heavens.
For the worldwide praying for Muslims, that stone is crucial. When Muslims face, they face in the direction of Mecca, they face in the direction of that stone.
The Black Stone of the Kaaba in Mecca is some kind of fragment that is held together by a silver band, and the object is actually said to have fallen from heaven, and it is said to have landed in paradise, where it was picked up by Adam and Eve.
The first human being, Adam, in Islamic tradition, builds the first temple out of this stone, the first place to worship God. Then the stories of that stone gets lost during the flood. It is then rediscovered by Abraham. So Abraham, with his son Ishmael, build in Mecca the first place of prayer. scientific, we may call that a meteorite.
If we take the scriptures seriously, this story tells us this stone was the communication between the two dimensions, from the heaven to the earth. For Adam and Eve, this was the first altar to communicate with the celestial realm.
The Black Stone at Mecca is arguably the world's most venerated meteorite, but it is hardly alone. Many other ancient cultures believe meteorites and impact sites have a connection to a higher realm.
In Roman times, a very prominent meteorite was found in Syria and was worshipped. It was referred to as Heliogabalus, which literally means the sun touching down to the earth. In Delphi, the meteorite was associated with Apollo at his temple in Delphi. So this is a constant theme that we have in the ancient world, tying physical objects to the gods, to the skies, to the heavens.
Historians of religion agree that people have venerated meteorites and impact sites throughout history. The question is why?
It's something that we find repeated over and over again in these crater impact sites, is that they believe that through these meteorites they can talk with the gods, and the gods can actually see them as well. So the meteorite then becomes a way of connecting with the divine beings.
Is it possible that numerous ancient cultures around the world simply passed down similar mythological stories that meteorites and earthly impact sites could allow them to communicate with higher beings? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that these otherworldly encounters may have actually happened. And for further evidence, they point to one of the most mysterious and sacred sites in North America. Peebles, Ohio. Sprawling across a large clearing that divides a wooded landscape, sits a 1,370-foot-long monument in the shape of a coiling snake. It is known as the Great Serpent Mound. According to historians, an indigenous Native American culture called the Adena built the mound in 320 BC, and curiously, it is positioned right on the edge of an enormous crater.
It actually sits right on the 300-million-year-old meteor impact crater, which was so powerful that it even went down to the mantle inside the Earth. And this has created all sorts of gravitational and magnetic anomalies in the area. And it's thought that the reason the Adena people built this site, chose it, is because it has these kind of energetic, almost spiritual qualities associated with it. One of the great mysteries of Serpent Mound is that this meteorite creates this impact site, this impact crater, 250 million years ago. Then suddenly, 3,000 years ago, the Adena people come along and they're somehow able to identify its significance. And they build an effigy. And it becomes this very powerful place of reverence for the Adena people for the next 2,000 years or so.
When you look at the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio, you have to wonder if there was some energy there that they were feeling. And so they built the Serpent Mound there as a testament to the extraterrestrial connection, perhaps, that's with this crater.
Serpent Mound has long been talked about as being like otherworldly connection. And in traditions that go way, way back, there's talk of the Star People. They're described in certain ways in myths, which in modern times we would see as like UFOs landing and interacting with these extraterrestrial beings. So is Serpent Mound part of this ancient tradition?
As unique as the Great Serpent Mound is against its forested landscape, it is not the only asteroid impact site on Earth where ancient cultures believed there was an extraterrestrial connection.
In Australia, we find an
extraordinarily mysterious site, the Wolf Creek Crater. The indigenous people call it Kaumala, the star that fell from the sky. It's an impact crater site that's 3,000 feet in diameter. Even more interesting than that is the indigenous legend that is attached to it. They talk about two serpents that emerged from the dream time and created this crater. It suggests once again that these indigenous cultures were in contact with otherworldly beings that either are connected with the crater, the impact site, or somehow emerged from it. Did our ancestors bear witness to the proof that asteroids and meteors could connect man with otherworldly beings? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining two mysterious objects that have recently been detected in outer space, which some scientists believe may be controlled by extraterrestrials.
We have never seen an object like this, ever. This was really exciting.
It came into our solar system, went around the sun, and flew by Earth as if it was a probe looking at us.
The island of Maui. Here, atop a dramatic 10,000-foot summit, stands the Haleakala Observatory. On October 19, 2017, astronomers detect a mysterious object traveling through our solar system. It is unlike anything that has been seen before.
Coordinating the observing to characterize the object. There were 4 images taken that showed an object moving rapidly with respect to the stars. The stars are individual dots of light, and this object was a streak, so they knew it was moving fast. At that point, they started to compute an orbit to try and understand what this object was. Everything in the solar system is either on a circular or an elliptical orbit, but once more data came in, it was very clear that the orbit was hyperbolic, meaning something coming from outside the solar system. We have never seen an object on an orbit like this ever before, and it's an irregularly shaped object that's about 800 meters or half a kilometer in length. This was really exciting.
The landmark discovery is the first time an object is officially recognized as interstellar. To signify the importance of the finding, the astronomers give it a fitting name.
In honor of this object being discovered by a telescope in Hawaii, the team came up with the name Oumuamua, which means Voyager from the distant past reaching out to us.
Astronomers were not only mystified by where Oumuamua came from, but also by its strange oblong shape, which was like no asteroid ever detected. The interstellar object moved steadily through the solar system, and astronomers were taken by surprise once again when, after passing by the sun, it appeared to accelerate.
Oumuamua was moving rapidly away from the sun. When it made its closest pass to the sun, inside the orbit of Mercury, it was moving very fast, a little more than 195,000 miles per hour. So this is moving rapidly out of the solar system.
To Harvard astronomer Dr. Avi Loeb, the unusual behavior indicated that the object wasn't an asteroid or a comet. Instead, he proposed an extraordinary hypothesis. Oumuamua was an extraterrestrial spacecraft.
Oumuamua was definitely an outlier, and the question is, why would the first interstellar meteor be so unusual? There was a question as to what pushed Oumuamua away from the sun, and my thought was that raises the possibility that it may have been a spacecraft propelled artificially.
Oumuamua could possibly have been a probe coming into our solar system the same way we send probes to Jupiter. It came into our solar system, went around the sun, and flew by Earth as if it was a probe looking at us.
In intrigued by the possibility that Oumuamua might actually be a probe sent to our solar system by an extraterrestrial civilization, Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb began searching for evidence of other celestial objects moving in a similar fashion.
I came across a meteor catalog that the government compiled using its missile warning system. It's called CNEOS. And I asked my student to check if any of those meteors came from outside the solar system. He found that one of them was actually moving at 60 kilometers per second, clearly unbound to the sun.
Astronomers determined that this object, like Oumuamua, did in fact originate outside the solar system. This new discovery was first observed by military satellites in January 2014, 3 years before Oumuamua was identified. But unlike Oumuamua, this object did not pass by the planet, but actually entered Earth's atmosphere and exploded over the Pacific Ocean.
The meteor burned up about 100 miles off the coast of Papua New Guinea, and it released a few percent of the energy of the Hiroshima bomb when it exploded. From that, we inferred it was about half a meter in size when it exploded.
Excited by the discovery, Dr. Loeb closely examined
As before, clearly unbound to the sun.
Astronomers determined that this object, like Oumuamua, did in fact originate outside the solar system. This new discovery was first observed by military satellites in January 2014, 3 years before Oumuamua was identified. But unlike Oumuamua, this object did not pass by the planet, but actually entered Earth's atmosphere and exploded over the Pacific Ocean.
The meteor burned up about 100 miles off the coast of Papua New Guinea, and it released a few percent of the energy of the Hiroshima bomb when it exploded. From that, we inferred it was about half a meter in size when it exploded.
Excited by the discovery, Dr. Loeb closely examined the data captured by the military satellites, and he noticed something extraordinary.
The government released data of the explosion, and from that we inferred that the object must have been tougher than iron. So not only was this object the first interstellar meteor, but it was also tougher than all other meteors detected by the government in that catalog. And that raises the possibility that it may have been a spacecraft propelled artificially and made of some alloy that is much tougher than iron meteorites. To find out, we need to find the material. If we do end up concluding that it was artificial in origin, perhaps a spacecraft, that will have huge implications for the future of humanity.
Some people are saying this object came from outside the solar system. Maybe, just maybe, it's a techno-signature of intelligent life. And that has created a sensation because this is a new branch of science. We're not just looking at asteroids anymore. We're looking for remnants of intelligence.
When you consider the vastness of space and just how tiny our planet is, it's literally a tiny speck within the Milky Way galaxy. And then you factor in direct hits by meteorites that came from beyond our solar system. You have to wonder, are these meteorites somehow intelligently directed?
Is it possible that the meteor that exploded